I spent 6, 7 years in this lonely place getting fired from 5 different jobs. I mean, anywhere from collections, which I should have got fired, by the way. Like, when people would tell me why they couldn't pay, I'd go, that's a good reason. I'm going to delete your name from the list. So I'm not saying that people fired me because they were mean to me. I am saying that I found what I sucked at before I found out what I was good at. And at 28, in that journey of discovery, I meet a man, and I met him on the job as professionals. And so I had this conversation in the back of my head that started when I was 12. And that conversation said, you can't date anybody in this neighborhood because they're going to go to jail. And you will be tied and tethered to jail. And you're seeking the Brady Bunch. And they had disruption, but they didn't have jail. And so meeting him on the job as a professional, I felt everything's good. He has a job. He's a professional. He was technical. He was fixing the computers. And the moment he walked in, I wanted to break every computer in my office so that he could stay as long as possible. And 13 months later, I found myself pregnant. I had my son, Jelani, and I'll never forget, I was sitting in my living room and the phone rang. I hadn't heard from my son's father in about 3 days, which was uncommon. Hello? Hey, I got some news to tell you. Lisa, I'm in LA County Jail. I dropped the phone. And I looked at my son in the bassinet. And my biggest fear since 12 years old had just come true. I went to LA County Jail, and when they patted me down, I felt humiliated. But when they asked me to remove my son Jelani's diaper, I was done. And I told him, you won't ever see me again. He called my son every week. My son would talk to him all the time, and when my son turned 8, my son looked at me and said, Mommy, I don't want to talk to Daddy on the phone anymore. I don't want to see any more pictures of Daddy. I want to touch his head. And I knew that I had to tell him where he was. We had to drive 5 hours up north. And I never forget my son and I walking through the prison. I'm just sick. I'm nauseous, I'm sick. And in my nausea and my just scattered brain, the sheriff said, go right. And in my dyslexia, probably, I went left. And I see all of these, what looks like dorms, and all of these faces come to the window, and all men. And I'm like, this doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. And I look down at Jelani, and I just feel like I want to pass out. I just want to go back through the gate. I just want to pass. I just want to, but I don't want to let him down because he just wants to see his dad. And I said, son, I don't know if I could do this. And he squeezed my hand, and he looked up, he goes, Mommy, don't worry, we get to go home. We didn't do anything wrong. I was like, okay, promise? That's when he saw his dad for the first time. My son is 25 years old, and his father is still in prison. And it's crazy that that's my story. you know, and that, but it's also a beautiful sense of life. Like I had to find light with my biggest fear coming true. My grandmother used to say, cinnamon tastes really bad by itself, baby. And nutmeg tastes really nasty by itself, baby. But if you put cinnamon, nutmeg with some brown sugar and peaches with a little crust, you got a great peach cobbler, baby. And I learned that was my cinnamon by itself.